New call to end special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, and it comes from Congressman Andy Biggs, who sits on the House Judiciary Committee. He writes in a USA Today editorial, after assuming the role, Mueller has made blatantly partisan hires that place the direction of his probe under a cloud of suspicion. These hires are, in part, due to a failure of the Department of Justice to officially vet its prosecutors or agents. Unfortunately, Mueller exploited this lapse in policy. Mueller has demonstrated he is incapable of leading a focused, unbiased review of his initial assignment. His witch hunt must end. Congressman Biggs, a Republican from Arizona, joins us now. Do you think anybody at the Department of Justice is listening?
Well, I think they are listening. I think they have to listen because they have started to find, as they are going through, people like Peter Strzok, who had a kind of a godlike complex where he wanted to keep Mr. Trump from becoming President Trump. And when you get that type of a high-level agent and you bring him onto your team to investigate President Trump, you have a and that becomes known, and the Department of Justice has to respond, and I think they are beginning to respond.
You say that the whole Mueller investigation is really diverting attention from Hillary Clinton's actions, and you call it the scandal of our lifetime. What do you mean?
Well, I think the scandal of a lifetime is where you have a high-ranking government officials that are actually trying to conspire to throw the election. And that's what we're starting to see happen. And as that gets unpeeled, that onion gets peeled back, you're going to see that that began when they exonerated Hillary Clinton, that they threw that investigation to protect her, to allow her to get elected. They conspired with the Russians, it looks like, and we need to get to the bottom of that. And when that comes out, that will be the scandal of our lifetime. Because it's outrageous.
You say that that this is really the Mueller investigation, in some respects, is an enemy of freedom. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, when you start pitting government officials and you bring them in with unseemly bias, a conflict of interest, you are pitting people trying to destroy not only the election, that's one issue, but you're not allowing justice to take place. And that's the basis, and you're destroying the rule of law, which is the basis for the freedoms that we enjoy, is the very rule of law.
Michael Isikoff obviously disagrees with you. He writes this in the Huffington Post. But now, as Trump prepares to end his first year in office, the witch hunt narrative may have outlived its usefulness. Mueller's investigation has expanded and gained serious traction. The president's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and Manafort's chief deputy, Rick Gates, have been indicted. His former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, has pleaded guilty and is now a cooperating witness. So, too, is a former foreign policy advisor, George Papadopoulos, has admitted lying to the FBI. If you listen to Isikoff's notes, it all sounds pretty grim for the president and his team.
Well, I mean, that's their narrative, and the problem that you have with that is they're off the original narrative, which was that Donald Trump, as candidate Trump, was colluding with the Russians to throw the election. But what we found out is that the election was actually, the conspiracy was between the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and perhaps even somewhat with the FBI to prevent President Trump from becoming President Trump. The other thing is, this witch hunt narrative, when he says that they've expanded their investigation, that's exactly the problem. They're not investigating the Trump campaign anymore. They're going off willy-nilly anywhere they can. And that's what happens when these special counsel investigations can't keep focus. Rod Rosenstein, who's supposed to be overseeing it, he's not keeping them focused. The people who are on that investigative team, they have an agenda, and that was to bring down President Trump. That didn't work really well, so now they're expanding, and they're getting things like lying to the FBI. So what they do is they bring in a person, you grill them for hours one day, you grill them for hours the next day, next thing you know, you've got inconsistencies, that becomes a lie to the FBI. I'm not even sure why that's a crime necessarily, but it is a crime, and that's how they do it, and they do that to try to leverage those people to testify and go with other things. By the way, the Manafort and his partner, all those indictments, They have nothing to do with Russian collusion or participation
Yeah,
in
it
the
had to
election.
do with business activities.
Yeah, and the same with Flynn and Papadopoulos.
Yeah.
None of those have to do with it.
Andy Biggs is a Republican congressman from Arizona and a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, John.